Oh, first of all, congratulations, Amit, on scoring a 710. I know it's a long time coming because I've
Uh,
known you for a while now, and I know the amount of work you put in. How do you feel?
quite happy. One is because it was my seventh attempt,
Yeah, it's visible.
and
It's visible that you're quite happy.
yeah, see, 710. The happiness is always a relative measure, and for some people 710 wouldn't be a good score. But coming all this through, so I think for me 710 seems to be the best that I have achieved. So yeah,
So
I'm
seven
pretty happy now.
attempts, 7 attempts. That's just one less than the limit. So take us
Yeah.
through that a little bit. How does it feel to give the GMAT 7 times?
Yeah. So first of all, yeah. So I'll start from the beginning. I think that would be better. So in 2014, I joined a job with Tata's, and then for 2 years, I didn't really think of doing what am I going to do in the future. And after I think 2016, I thought of doing an MBA. And then what started off, I started searching, then GMAT came out to be the right option for me after the work acts. So that's how I started. And the one great mistake that many engineers make, and I think many people make, is I think overestimate their own capabilities while underestimating what GMAT is. So that is something really a big thing, and this is what really put me back, held me back. So the first GMAT attempt that I took was right after 1 month of my preparation, and I had a very low score. It was around 590 90 or so. And the second attempt I took in around 3 months again with a very few effort, and I got 620 around 610 and 620 around score. So all this while, what I had been doing was, and at that point of time, I was following Magoosh and all, so some of the course structures. But yeah, because I came from engineering background and had been good in maths, so I thought I would be able to cruise through the maths at least.
Right. So
But
let's stop here. Let's introspect a little. First of all, as an engineer, why didn't you
yeah.
think of giving the CAT? Was it the work experience bit, or was it the fact that you just didn't want to give the CAT?
So no, I did attempt the CAT, and in fact, I had converted 7 IMs in total. In 2017, I had converted 7 IMs, but then I had bigger aspirations, so to say, and so I was targeting the top 20s is what my thought had been. So I graduated from IIT Gandhinagar. That was again a newer IIT, though very good now. I wanted to pursue education in one of the old institutions.
Right, reputed
So
institutions
and I
where that have pedigree. That's what you're saying, right?
yeah.
Got it.
Right. So IIT Gandhinagar was also very good, but yeah, I wanted to pursue from some old organizations time. So and that too, if, the preference was to pursue it from abroad.
Got it.
That was again the thing. So I did not get into any of the IIMs. I continued, and after those two attempts, I stopped studying for GMAT. And again, it struck me to like really try once more in the
Hmm.
year 2000. So I started my startup in the year 2018 somewhere, and till 2017 when I was taking the CAT, so I took 3 attempts of GMAT as well. So that's how I completed my 5 attempts then and there, and the score
So
was like
let's
620,
talk about
640, and
let's
670
talk
was my
about your
highest.
first two attempts. Then we'll get to the next three attempts, right? So the first two attempts, 519, 620.
So,
Now, I can understand where you're coming from, and you made a very good point about really overestimating your ability because you must have understood that I'm good with quant. You've even done well on CAT, right? But my
right.
point is, I want you to tell me that, is GMAT an exam that is takeable with just a little bit of study or unstructured study like you did in the beginning for the first two attempts?
No, not at all. Even if you are coming from some reputed organization, in fact, some of the success stories that I have seen, even coming from IIT Bombay kind of colleges. Okay, so if you go in an unstructured manner, then you are certain to fall. So nothing can really take you to the levels like 700 plus with an unstructured study from wherever you have come. That doesn't really matter.
That's very,
So
very
that
true. I
is,
think that I absolutely agree with you there. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes for the first two attempts. Now, let's talk about the next three attempts and what happened there exactly.
so there, so the preference that I had at that point of time was CAT. Okay, and so GMAT, I thought I would be able to clear GMAT along with these studies. So there won't be much that I really need to put in, because
There's
quant
not
I would
much.
be able
So you
to.
thought there's not much of a difference between CAT and the GMAT. So if I study for one,
Yeah,
I get through the other. Got
yeah. So that's how I thought, and yeah. So so quant, you can do well with quant in GMAT if you're studying for CAT, but verbal is a different line altogether. So even if you are scoring, let's say, I would say 95 plus percentile in verbal, which I in fact got. Okay, so the same is not the case with here. I used to get V28, V27 kind of a score, and in this thing, verbal in GMAT. So these two are two different lines and require two different set of approaches, two different mindsets for the studies. Two are totally different. And then, so I got through, but after the three attempts, I again stopped, because again I started with my next set of career. So I got into a startup and all. So raised some funding. So that's where I went into. So I
So
stopped
for these
GMAT
three
there.
attempts, you didn't study again. What exactly did you do for these three attempts?
So so first of all, I didn't study for quant for GMAT. So I was studying for CAT at that point of time. So that was one. For verbal, yeah, I took certain courses. For example, so one of the course I took was e-GMAT. So I started doing everything from everywhere. So I took Manhattan. I had things from Veritas, e-GMAT, Magus, and everything. So I have complete structure. So it was like you
It's like
have
the perfect
so
khichdi.
recently I
Got it.
khichdi, yeah. So it's like so recently I came across this article. If you have an RDX but you don't have a detonator, right? So that detonator was missing, and I had complete RDX. So yeah. So again, I put in everything. That khichdi was not really of my taste, or so I that was again a big mistake, that trying to do everything from everywhere with no specific structured approach you should have in a GMAT. So that's the second failure and second biggest learning that I had. And this is why the third time which I got into, and that again is a very good story, with which is why I took e-GMAT, by the way. That's I'll cover. But yeah, so this is one of the reasons that I wanted to pursue only one course, whichever it is. So that was my thought after coming through the COVID time. So it all started again with the COVID times, when I got some time with me. So yeah,
Got it.
this was my
Interesting.
second attempt.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have two attempts, three attempts, and then now let's talk about how you approached your sixth attempt. What did you do differently?
So first of all, for the sixth attempt, so I first of all thought I was in the month of around March, so that's where I thought of starting GMAT studies again, and thought I had in my mind was that in about 4 months I should be able to do it, and this time, because I don't have any second work to do. For example, I had my closer of a startup. It was in the wrapping up stage. So I thought I don't have much to do. So this time I would be able to do the studies in a structured manner. And yeah, so one good thing that had come, that which is why I came to e-GMAT. So this is what I wanted to cover. This is one of the unique stories I think you will be able to hear. So I applied to e-GMAT director marketing position
I never knew
earlier
this, by the
during,
way.
I think,
I never
January.
knew this.
No, I knew this. Okay, fine. Yeah, I know. I didn't. I think, yeah, I couldn't. I didn't share this thing, right?
Yeah, I think
I
this
think
is
we had
something you never shared.
close
Yeah.
to yeah, we had close to more than 200 plus emails and a lot of discussion, but yeah, we didn't share. Yeah, so I applied to director marketing, and so one very good thing that e-GMAT has, the process it has for choosing the people. Okay, the way it really nurtures and the way it analyzes its talent. So first of all, it didn't ask for my CV, and it asked for certain questions. So I think one was the case study, then second was the SOP thing, and third thing was the video. Again, fourth thing was something, and fifth CV and interview with Rajat, Abhinav, and Payal.
Yeah.
So I went through, I think, all the 3 or 4 steps that I had. In the last one, somehow I think there were 2 candidates. That's what I was told. I myself and the other one, and the other came out to better. But that is again the other thing. But what really stood out to me was the way they were really selecting the talent, and I could understand the feel. So I was given one of the cases wherein a lot of people are coming to you, and how should you react. So what really they want out of their people. Okay, so they were putting us in their shoes, in the students who are going to pursue it, the course through e-GMAT. So that is
So I
something really
this is
stood out
something
the way.
I do want to talk about as well, right? Because I mean,
Yeah,
firstly, I
okay.
feel good that you say this because I've been hired. Uh, but
Yeah, okay.
this entire process, let me tell you, like the definition of it, and I've
Yeah,
worked with a person who defined it, is a very,
okay.
it's like a B school application. It's exactly
Yeah,
like a B school
exactly.
application. And you need to look at it from
Yeah,
that sense
yeah.
because it sees like the holistic personality of the individual, right? Not just one aspect. So that is something
Yeah,
that I think would have clicked. So how did this lead you to buying the course again?
yeah. So now, the first time I bought the course, I didn't really study through e-GMAT. I just bought it and kept it with me. I think I had finished just one SC's work thing or whatever was, and some of these colonialism questions. So I didn't really have much of an idea at that point of time, even of e-GMAT. So this overall thing would really had put in my mind that if I go to e-GMATs and the kind of structured methodology they pursue, they must be putting in a lot of effort. I mean, see the kind of positions that were floated. So you have marketing, you have subject matter experts. Okay, so each and everything had a different person. So for verbal, there were different people, subject matter experts. There are quant experts. So ultimately, what was coming out to me, there are a lot of people who are and they are looking for detail orientation, and everyone would be working on some different aspect, and that I really didn't see in one of the coaching that I had joined during 2000 and yeah. So one of the Bangalore based. So there is a lot of hype about one of the coachings, and they claim about every student getting 700 in class. So I could feel that there's a lot of difference in how the e-GMAT is structured,
So
the
in
way
terms
the
of
team is
product, right?
prepared.
In terms of product and the
Yeah,
way the course is structured and stuff like that.
yeah, right, right. So I really made up my mind. So the failure I took as a prominent thing that I should really pursue this course, because these are the people who would be able to push me through, and the way they have structured the teams. So under director marketing, there were certain people who would be addressing the queries, who would be addressing this and that. So I knew the overall structure who are going to help me through some manner. And in fact, whenever I used to raise any query, so I'll come to your part later, but whenever I used to raise any technical query, I used to get instant responses. So that was the kind of experience I had, which like in other coaching institutes, 2 or 3, one of the US based institutes as well, in which I used to raise query. I used to get responses in 3 to 4 days
Yeah, so
time,
I
and
mean,
sometimes.
the turnaround time with us, specifically given that I work with customer success, is that we try to ensure that we get back to you within the same day, which is in about 16 to 18 hours, specifically, very, very specifically. And trust me, all of us work towards doing that because now, if you're a student and if you're doing something and you're asking me a question, should I do this? You can't wait for 3 days for a reply because in those 3 days, you've lost all that learning, right?
Right, right, right.
I think
Exactly.
that's where customer success for us really comes in and makes a difference. So, okay, once you bought the course, what did you do? What is the first thing you did?
So now I got the course. So the very first thing I liked about these people, or the e-GMAT, one was the structure, right? I really didn't have any structure in any of the courses. They will take you through the first of all what you should do in the verb, then subject, verb, then parallelism, modifiers, and whatever. So that was the kind of a structure they had, and they had a timeline in the form of a calendar. So if you are targeting, let's say, your current score is, let's say, in the mock is 650 or whatever, then
Yeah.
you can estimate this is your individual scoring. So CR is this, SC is this, and
Right.
RC is
So
this.
you're
So
talking
individual
about the
abilities.
PSP, right? So the PSP that is created from the Sigma X mock that gives you sub-sectional level abilities for you to understand how
Right.
much time it's going to take to do it.
Exactly. So let's say if I put in 750 against even 600, then it would give you a very like 90% accurate estimate that it would take at least this much time to reach there. Let's say if you are going from CR 27 to 45, then this is the time. So, in fact, it came out to me as well. Earlier, I used to think when I was at 25 or 24 in CR, I cannot reach to 45 or so in CR level. But yeah, thanks to you, DJ, a lot, that I could see my CR thing improving from 4.5 minutes to 80, 90 seconds with 80% accuracy. So that was the change I could see in me, and that was very consistent with how the calendar is being prepared of
Got it.
e-GMAT as well.
Right. So let's talk about how
Uh,
we started working together. What was it like? What were the best bits of it? What did you learn?
right. So yeah, fine. So after I bought the course, I started preparing in the way it was structured, and I think I was done with some of I think SC and CR. That's where I got an email from you stating that so you have seen my performance in whichever way, and you promised me that you see an ability of 740 plus in me, and that's where I got even more motivated. And so that was one of icing on the cake, I would say. That's what I got. And fortunately I got you from e-GMAT. That was another icing on the cake. That so the very few things that our mentorship included was one-on-one consultation. That was very good, because when you asked for ESR from me, you specifically said that your main problems are comprehension, right, and the timing on the subject, as I see your ESR. And you correctly guessed that you should be able to fit in around 720 to 40 in about these many months. So this is how we will get to it. And then you structured all the study material, all the studies, that how you should be going about it, and followed it religiously. It was like you were giving GMAT instead of me, and then you were structuring everything for yourself.
Right.
So it was
So how
you
important
putting
how
yourself in
important is
motion.
this structure, Amit? Like the study plan, whether it's coming from me or
Yeah.
you're making it. How important is it to stay consistent and to have such a study plan?
See, so first of all, it is so if you, first of all, if you are targeting 700 plus, you cannot do it without consistency at all. That's something I can promise, and that's what came out from many of the success stories that you had shared in your strategy huddles as well. Right, that I could see. In fact, one of the strategy huddle that I still remember, and some of the friends that I was giving advices to, that a person going from 700 to 780 just because the timing changes, how he changes his time on each section. So see, there are very subtle changes that you beyond which it is not about the studies but the tactics of those studies. That's what you shared.
The
So if you
strategy.
want to go from seven, the strategy per se. So and you really emphasized on the consistency part. So these two things, and in fact I could see the even the consistency thing. So when we were midway, and I was getting so we had finished, and I was getting around 620 640s again in my mocks. So first two mocks, so that's where I was giving it up. And then Mr. DJ came back and in the form of a motivation, kind of a scolding me, what you are going to do, man. Whether you want to do it, you are going to put all the time that you have put in vain. So that again really charged me up. And that's where again I started, and I wasn't really consistent, that consistent when I was getting 620, 640, and later I got really consistent. And that's where the job and this thing really mixed and matched. Wherein, so when I was getting 620, 640, I was thinking to get a job, and alongside I should prepare for it. So which is why the two thoughts were running in parallel. Okay,
So,
and
Amit, do
this
you see
is
the pattern here? Let's start with your first prep.
yeah,
That's set aside that you didn't prepare properly. When your second prep, you had a lot going on with work. That's why you couldn't really do
yeah,
well. And
right,
then so that's something I remember very specifically because it's not like you lacked the ability. You didn't, right? It was clear to me. Just a little bit nudge here in CR and a little bit nudge in reading comprehension, and you kind of crossed.
yeah,
And for me, it was very clear that this guy has his attention on two things, not on one thing.
right,
And to do well on the GMAT, you have to have your focus on one thing and one thing only. That's your 700
right,
plus goal. If you think you can do
right,
everything altogether, it's not everybody's cup of tea, frankly. Right?
right, right.
Having said that,
True.
I remember that you mentioned CR and RC and comprehension for you has always been something that was holding you back, right? And I
Right,
remember that
right.
your schooling is also not from an English medium school, and you kind of that was the biggest challenge there, and you really overcame it. That was wonderful.
Right.
But we did a few things, if you remember, to overcome it as well. I want you to
Yeah.
talk about that too.
Right. Right. So my background is I come from a Hindi medium schooling. So that's what I shared with DJ, and DJ had a like ready-made plan for me. That's like his weakness. We will be able to overcome over this period of time. And then you shared you. I mean, in the structured study, you shared the plan of studying how you should study the articles of, let's say, NYT or the Economist. So I went ahead, and that's what really helped me a lot in how I should study those articles. So earlier I used to think I would take around half an hour in going through those articles. Later, the same I started doing LSET, which had around 60 lines per passage, in around 3 to 4 minutes only, with your advice, just following your advice. So I was looking for what the author was talking in each and why he is talking like that. So that's what came to me, and yeah, now so GMAT not for the exam but for my own improvement. It helped a lot because now whatever articles I study, earlier I used to see this is a lot I won't be able to study. It's a research paper I won't be able to study. Now I'm able to do those even if it is a research paper in about 15 minutes or so.
I
So it
remember
doesn't
you
really
went
bother me.
back to master comprehension too, right? I told you to go back, do master comprehension again.
Right. So at a later stage, so again, I was around 40 to 50% accuracy in RC, right? Hello, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it got started. So I was at around 45 to 50% accuracy, and that's where you shared that you redo this MC course. So master comprehension course basically. So I went back and did that course, and right after that, I took one ability quiz that again as per the structure you shared, and I scored 85% plus accuracy in that particular RC thing. So I mean, I could see the jump. There was nothing else. So 2 days back, I had 40% accuracy, and 2 days now I have 80% accuracy with nothing but the MC code that I had pursued. So master comprehension not only helped me in the RC thing, but yeah, it percolated to the CR the way I was reading CR as well. So yes,
And that's
master
how you
comprehension
reduced
came out
your
to be
time from 4.5 minutes to ultimately 90 seconds.
right. So CR, I couldn't even imagine that I would be able to go to that time. I was able to solve now hard question in 70, 80 seconds sometimes. So that was the like a magic coming through.
Right. So I think that's
So
that's
yeah,
really an aha moment and an incremental improvement, frankly. You worked very, very hard on it. Let's not take that
yeah,
out of the equation because
right.
the amount of work you put in was very, very crucial. Tell me something. You've done quite a lot of the course, but I always emphasized on reviewing and the error log, and I kept repeating it to
Right,
you like a million times.
right,
How like did
right.
that help?
I mean, yeah, a lot. So, for example, one very good thing with the e-GMAT is which you will not get in any of the other courses. I have gone through all the major yeah, GMAT courses, I would say. So, they have a structured way of telling you like this is how you should do the strategic review of everything. Okay, so let's say even if a CR is taking 20 minutes, let it be. It's good. But this will help you in getting to that 90 second which I ultimately reached. So and you had every you have the Payal had created videos on each and everything, like for CR you should review in this manner. If you are getting this to this score, then you should review in this manner. If you are getting from this to this, then you should review these thing, like let's say only application quizzes or the practice quizzes. So that's what. And after looking at my performances and the strategic review after sharing with you, you used to tell me like, man, you should do these things, otherwise we are not going anywhere. So yeah, so the strategic review, the error log thing, along with your advices, helped me a lot,
So let's talk about
specifically with this.
mocks now, and then we're going to move from mocks to your first attempt to the retake, right? So in your mocks, at first, like it was bad, and I know it was bad, and I was very concerned as well. I thought, okay, so am I doing something wrong here? So when you really had to improve, and that kind of increment from a 620 to scoring 730, 740 consistently, what changed for you?
Right. So few things. One is the timing. Okay, so earlier, even when I got 620, you said your ability is somewhere around 680 to 690. You could, I mean, I was very amazed to see you could really gauge the ability of a person just by looking at those scores. So, for example, even when I shared ESR with you, and the way I would have read the ESR would be like I got 100 second in SC, but this is the accuracy, and RC, this is the accuracy. But then you coming out telling me that, man, even though your RC overall scoring is less, but this is because SC. And I would have overestimated my SC ability, saying that 104 second is good for SC. Okay, that would have again held me back. So this is one thing. So one, the timing structure in taking those mocks. The second is ability in improving in specific topics. For example, my word problem was not good, so which was holding me back. The second thing was, let's say, number property, but the timing on the number properties was not good. So you cherry pick those things, and then I prepared, and then ultimately within, I think, from 620 to 710, I prepared for around 20 days only, and then I got 720 in the third mock. So that's where there wasn't much of a difference. You could estimate my ability, you could really identify the gaps I had, and I could improve 90, yeah, so 622 there, so 100 point basically in about 20 days. Yeah.
100 points. So 100 points in 20 days. I mean, when you see this in an email, you think, oh my God, it's a marketing gimmick. But I assure you
Yeah.
it's not. I really am
Yeah.
telling you it's not. It's very data centric, and you can really tweak these things, right? So going to
Right.
your examination, I remember you told me this is how much I scored. And I knew because your ability was at that point 720, 730, and I knew it, right? Again, that's
Right.
something I
Right.
could tell from data. So what
Yeah.
went wrong in your exam?
So yeah, so the major thing was the timing. So in both
Again,
the section,
again.
yeah, again. So I repeated, and you shared, like, I cannot emphasize this much, but you need to improve on your timing, man. So yeah, so that's where you shared, like, within 2 weeks we should be able to go to at least 730 or so. And that's where I took 3 weeks time in total, because I had some family affairs going on. So I took 3 weeks of time and then prepared for it, studied, and finally I got 710 in e-GMAT math. Okay, the last one attempt. Yeah, one more thing I wanted to share. When I was taking the last uh, my sixth attempt, basically you said, just keep your last mock intact, don't don't take it, right? So I
Because
somehow
Sigma X marks
I
are so accurate, right? Like
yeah.
if you tell me I got a 710 in Sigma X mark, I'll be like, you will do well on the test, and I can tell
Right,
you
right,
how to get that 10, 20 point better. But if you don't have any
right.
Sigma X marks left, I have nothing, no data.
Exactly. And I think Sigma X mocks came out to be the best measure of among all the tests that I used to take, from GC to, like, say, Veritas or Manhattan, whatever I took. So if you talk about my median and mode, then e-GMAT would have been the last three tests, my 700, 710, and 720. So I got a 710. So yeah, it was really consistent with what I got with e-GMAT.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
So
you
that's there.
improved your score from that 680 to a 710, which is working on the things I mentioned in your reading plan. I mean, frankly,
Yeah.
that's phenomenal because I didn't necessarily give you a retake plan. You knew exactly what you had to do yourself based on the video I made for you. How is mentorship? How did it play a role in you studying for yourself for that retake bit? Because that's all you. That's absolutely you.
Right. So, the structure that you had shared after my sixth attempt to seventh attempt was, so you you shared that there is a test readiness gap. So you're not able to manage your time on the first section. For example, I had spent a lot of time on let's say in the first section I got 6 right and 1 wrong, and that in 1 wrong question I spent around 4 to 5 minutes that you could really see. And you said you I mean you cannot spend, this is a sin you are doing with yourself, like, so you cannot do that, you have to improve. And I started letting go of the questions. So that's what I did. And then the improvement plan that you had shared, I started letting go of the question, even if it comes under my strength. And if I'm so after this much of consistency and the test readiness that you had prepared me for, I could gauge that I have reached to 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. Now I should leave. So earlier I used to think, how would I be able to guess 3 minutes? Have I taken 4 minutes? But then you would be able to gauge, and you can see this in the scholarinium as well, that you have spent only 2.5 or 3 minutes, or the sigma x mark. So yeah, so I started letting go of the questions. I managed my timing in each of the sections, and the warm-ups that you shared, and like for example, my weaknesses were word problem in quant, or let's say RC. So you said like a day back you should study only these things, so that should improve you in the final thing. So yeah,
Right.
so
So
this is
this
the
is, I
overall
mean, this is
structure I followed. And
frankly, I know, you've done a lot of work as well, and I'm extremely proud of you, to be honest, because it takes a lot of, takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of perseverance and determination to give this test 7 times and actually get the score you want. I mean, phenomenal
right.
job on that. Now that you have the 710, what's next for you?
So I'll come to that, but yeah, thanks a lot, DJ, because I would have left this, and then the very sixth attempt, I would have left this, but because of your continuous motivation, I was able to go through. And you just see the perks of getting 710 versus 670, wherein I was giving up. So this time I have access to a lot of B schools, top 20 B schools that I wasn't even thinking about in 670, and then a lot of scholarship and other scopes. Like just now we were talking about the ISB and other things. Earlier I would have been thinking like ISB, whether it is whether they would be calling me or not. Now at least we are certain that there are 90% chances they would be at least calling me with my profile. So yeah, so thanks to you. This is something I wanted to share. The second, yeah, where I wanted to go. So again, from the corporate I turned towards startups. And again I'm thinking around the startup only. So I actually want to remain connected with the startup industry, and that's where I feel the VC industry, the PE industry would be best fit for me going forward, because 10 years down the line I would really want to do something on my own. So I would so that's what my dream is all about, and that's what I
So,
wanted
so
to do.
basically, you're pivoting from becoming an entrepreneur to actually becoming an investor, right?
In investor side, yeah.
Well, I
Right.
think that's a
So
good way to go. And if you're pivoting your career, it's very important that you do a 2-year course instead of a 1-year course. I think that's very important because you get to do the internship to really understand the job in itself because you haven't done it till now, right? That's something you need
right,
to
right,
really, really understand. So I think
right.
that's something that you should keep in mind. Having said that, ISB has a bunch of people who get into investment banking, private equity, stuff like that, and they have great placements there as well. So you should be able to pivot doing so. But are you planning to apply to any other schools outside of India? Like you said, you want to apply abroad?
Yeah, so I was looking, going through. So what are the courses we have for VC and P? So for example, so US I'm a bit skeptic about. In fact, I want to research more because the kind of atmosphere that is going on in there, and with this COVID thing going on and on. So I feel I would be more comfortable in the Europe and the Canadian side. So and then the commercial center, which is London, the two schools basically Cambridge and LBS stood out for P things. And otherwise, if you look at the overall scenario for VC industry, it would be more in, it is actually more in the US only. And in fact, they recruit from the top 10s only. For example, Harvard and Ross
Yeah.
kind of colleges. So yeah. So these are the things I have in mind. I need to research more, but yeah, LBS for sure. Cambridge I would be applying to. These are the two institutions, and then so ISB over here and US is in my radar as well. So these are some of the colleges that I have thought through, but yeah, I need to research more.
I think great picks.
Having given
Great picks given the current global scenario. Great picks. Yes, you're right about venture capitalism and private equity. Most of it they come from the top 10 or top 7 business schools. So you have Columbia, you have Stern, you even have Talk. Talk is really good for consulting as well, but even for private equity and stuff like that. Can consider them, but given your score, given your kind of background, I would say LBS is a really good pick. It would be slightly a bit of a read school for you, but given the right essays, I'm sure that you can give it a good shot. As far as Judge is concerned, this is Cambridge. Judge is a really good school. It's an up and coming school. In 10 years, it's going to be what LBS is. That's what the vision is. They have great courses. They have a great integrated course as well for people who want to get into entrepreneurship as well. So that's something that you can consider. But having said all of that, I think good picks and all the best to you.
thanks a lot, DJ, and thanks to you, thanks to e-GMAT basically for
Thank
all
you.
this.